How did it happen that Boruto ended up being the series that cleaned up the huge mess left behind by the beloved Naruto series? What arguments support that claim? I'm going to present them to you, so watch until the end. Feed the algorithm with a like, leave a sub, and let's go. Let's start by outlining the whole situation, because most of us probably fell in love with Naruto for its style, the shinobi atmosphere, and the tactical fights, constantly searching for small details. And in the first series, this worked really well. Whether it was Rock Lee's fights, Kakashi versus Zabuza, or later Naruto and Sasuke versus Haku, these were absolute masterpieces. And of course, the classic of classics, Gaara versus Lee. That's probably one of the greatest fights of all time. And I'd say that almost until the very end of the series, the ninja style and atmosphere stayed at a very high level. However, we can't ignore the fact that the power level increased drastically and very quickly, even in the first series. A clear exception here is Hiruzen versus Orochimaru, a fight on a much higher level, no longer purely shinobi, but more fantasy-like. Still, we could forgive that because we knew it was the village leader, the strongest, facing the main antagonist, so the highest possible level. That was the peak we were shown. But then we get Naruto versus Gaara, and this is where the problems start. These fights already move away from the ninja atmosphere, gigantic beasts firing massive bombs that destroy entire forests. And now it's hard to imagine that these are two 12 to 13-year-olds using power on this scale. Naruto summons Gamabunta, Gaara unleashes a tailed beast. This already feels like a huge exaggeration for the shinobi world. Still, it fit the story nicely. Then we move several levels higher. Naruto versus Sasuke. Naruto in his tailed form, covered in pure orange chakra, versus Sasuke with the curse mark. This also goes far beyond the shinobi framework. We're no longer watching ninjas, but people endowed with extraordinary powers. Something closer to Tekken, I'd say. So honestly, I wouldn't even say that I loved the first series purely because it was ninja style. It was ninja style, yes, but only up to maybe episode 100 out of 200. After that, the power level increased drastically, and this brings us to Shippuden. 2 years pass and the bar is slowly raised. Naruto gains more control over the beast, but the Kazekage arc still truly feels shinobi. We see new things, puppets, expanded stories from the first series, and everything works fine. Then we see Orochimaru again, still absurdly powerful, but that doesn't bother us anymore. We already know this peak. Naruto's beast form is also something we're used to, so no one really questions it. And then comes the biggest turn we could have seen, the creation of the Rasen Shuriken, an undeniably top-tier jutsu, so powerful it could probably wipe out a large part of a village in a single hit, and incredibly difficult to stop. Luckily, there's a limiter. Naruto can't overuse it because the chakra particles damage his arm, disrupt his chakra flow, and could prevent him from using chakra at all, so that works. We also get Sage Mode, a natural yet supernatural power, but one that still fits the shinobi theme quite well. Then comes Pain, who starts using things that feel very off. Resurrection, controlled mechanical bodies, cybernetic weapons, things that don't really belong in the ninja world at all. And of course, we enter the era of Mangekyo Sharingan, Itachi and Sasuke performing absolute miracles. At this point during the Pain arc, we've reached such a level of abstraction that this is barely a ninja world anymore. So when people complain that Boruto has ridiculous things happening, I honestly think this was already the final warning bell. From here on, we're clearly beyond classic ninja territory. Then we arrive at the Great Ninja War, where things fully turn into pure science fiction. And let me be clear, I am fully aware of what I'm saying here. The war arc featured things that were far more sci-fi, far more cosmic than anything we have ever seen in Boruto. That is undeniable. Let's not forget that Shippuden was the series that introduced the origin of chakra itself as coming from alien beings, the Otsutsuki. Boruto doesn't invent this, it continues it. And I'd even say Boruto stabilizes the concept. Now let's talk about why things ended up this way and why Boruto actually fixes many of these problems. First of all, why do people complain so much? One major reason is technology. Boruto's world has advanced technologically, and that makes sense. If techniques advanced so rapidly in Shippuden, if everyone was learning absurdly powerful abilities at lightning speed, then naturally society and technology would advance as well. Electronics and tools that already existed in Shippuden are simply multiplied in Boruto. The real problem is that the anime exaggerates this heavily. When you read the manga, you don't get the same overwhelming sense of futuristic overload. The modernity is there, but it's far more restrained. In the Boruto anime, however, especially in canon fillers, we constantly see bizarre things that feel completely disconnected from the universe. And that's where a lot of the backlash comes from. So how does Boruto fix all of this? First, absurd large-scale jutsu spam is no longer viable. This isn't Shippuden, where Madara casually drops 2 massive meteors and wipes out tens of thousands of soldiers like it's nothing. It's not Naruto firing Bijudama after Bijudama, capable of destroying entire villages. Sasuke could do it, Pain could do it, everyone could. Boruto brings things back to tactics. If we compare peak level fights such as Hiruzen versus Orochimaru, the Boruto equivalent would be Naruto and Sasuke versus Momoshiki, and look at how that fight is handled. It's not about raw power being thrown around, it's about battle IQ. Even within that arc, it's clearly shown that blindly throwing power around is actually a disadvantage. You need to find the right opening, the right moment, and only then use overwhelming force. Naruto and Sasuke had to work extremely hard just to land that final blow of pure energy on Momoshiki, Naruto didn't spam Rasen Shuriken or random god tier techniques. Instead, they countered what Momoshiki was doing. We see basic weapons, Sasuke's teleportation swaps, clones, swordplay. This is nothing like late Shippuden fights, and the reason is simple. If they fought the same way as they did at the end of Shippuden, Momoshiki would just absorb everything and the fight would be over. And that's why, even though people complain about ninja tools, about chakra absorption, about karma, Rinnegan abilities, Naruto's prosthetic arm, or random ninja tech users, the truth is that the world now actively counters overpowered jutsu. Technology and abilities exist specifically to neutralize massive techniques, so now it's no longer enough to just have power. You must create the conditions to use it effectively, and Boruto does this very well. Let's look at the introduction of Kawaki as an example. Even with Karma before he ever used overwhelming power, just like in Naruto and Sasuke versus Ishiki, he first had to create an opening. He had to break his opponent down to the point where they could no longer defend themselves, and that was genuinely beautiful to watch. The same applies to Boruto's fighting style, even early on. He genuinely experiments with clones in creative ways. Compare that to Naruto, who often used clones that simply vanished, followed by a Rasengan from behind and then a parental lecture, "Why are you doing this? We're the same." And the fight would end with Naruto shaking hands with an enemy of humanity. I know it wasn't always like that, but personally, it really bothered me. Both in the original series and in Shippuden, Boruto operates differently. That said, I'm fully aware that the Boruto anime does a terrible job of showing this. The anime is simply badly made. It's a weak adaptation, technically and narratively. It fails to reflect the manga, the tone, and the intent of the fights. That's why I completely understand people who only watch the anime and say, "This looks bad. This doesn't feel like a ninja world anymore." In the anime, that's true. In the manga, it's a completely different story, and because of that, I wouldn't blame Kodachi or Ikamoto. I'd blame Studio Pierrot, which seriously dropped the ball. Another example showing that flashy Dragon Ball style jutsu spam is a waste of chakra can be seen in Naruto and Sasuke vs Jigen. Naruto uses Kurama's avatar, his strongest form. Sasuke uses perfect Susanoo. And Jigen, he simply overwhelms them with taijutsu and basic black rods. That's the point. He didn't need to escalate power. A relatively small figure defeating 300-meter constructs using pure physical ability, that alone was enough. This is exactly what was missing in late Shippuden. Then we get Ishiki, where no amount of battle IQ or focus power is enough. He's simply too strong, and that's when Baryon Mode appears, the strongest form that exists within the story at that specific moment. Sasuke states it directly. This is the greatest power he has ever seen or felt, and there's a reason the author used Sasuke to deliver that line. I know Boruto doesn't always portray power scaling well. I know the end of Shippuden was poorly explained, but here we have to trust what the author is trying to tell us. The greatest power in history was rooted in taijutsu. That alone should convince us that Boruto fixed the power system that Shippuden completely broke. This is why I consider complaints like Boruto introduced too many changes or this isn't a ninja world anymore to be hypocritical. In my opinion, many people simply grew up. 10 or 15 years have passed, people went from being 15 to being 30, and naturally they look at the series differently now, especially when the Boruto anime itself is just badly made. If I had to choose which series is more sci-fi and fantasy versus which is more ninja, I would say without hesitation that Boruto is more ninja than half of Shippuden. The original Naruto undeniably had the best classic ninja atmosphere, but Boruto surpasses a large portion of Shippuden in that regard. And now we arrive at Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, which shows a very strong blend of classic elements and modern ideas. We have futuristic enemies, but at the same time their abilities feel more traditional, Boruto wielding a sword, Kawaki relying on pure brutality. As I've said, it's not perfectly ninja in the old school sense, but it's a solid fusion of classic and modern concepts. I truly hope that in a year and a half, maybe 2 years at most, when the Blue Vortex anime finally airs its first episode, it will be portrayed properly, and then I'll gladly make this kind of video again, reminding people that the truth lies with those who don't hate Boruto out of principle, but actually watch it and try to judge it as objectively as possible. Because of course objectivity is never 100%. It always depends on the individual. That's something I've wanted to say for a long time, and I'm very curious about your opinions. Do you think Boruto really fixes Shippuden's mistakes, or do you still feel that Boruto went too far? Do you like the combat style in Boruto? Did you like it in Shippuden? At what point do you think Shippuden took a wrong turn? Of course, all of this is your opinion. So as always, I'm waiting for you in the comments. Remember to leave a like and a subscription. Let's feed the algorithm. Thanks a lot. See you next time, and goodbye.